Hey guys! I hope you're all doing well. If you don't know, my name's Brittany and I film videos based around the paranormal and mythological beings. Now, if that's something that you think might interest you, go ahead quick and hit that subscribe button and we're going to dive right into the topic of today. So, this one's kind of going to be a little bit more laid back. It's just going to be my personal story time. And so this is another of the My Paranormal Life series. Now these ones are very short stories. I'm going to tell you a little bit. I'm going to tell you a few different ones. They're going to be about my childhood as well as my time working at a retail store not that long ago. So now I'm going to introduce you to my childhood ghosts. So think about this. Children are much more perceptive to the paranormal than adults. So the reason being is because children don't have that veil up. They are much more open to things and they are just filled with innocence. They're not scared of the world. Like they might have like separation anxiety and things like that, but they are excited. And that's why a lot of times children have imaginary friends. Now, imaginary friends are said to be actually spirits that connect with children, and they're called imaginary friends because adults can't see them. And they just kind of see their child talking to this thing that's not there. So it's an imaginary friend. So I actually did have an imaginary friend, and her name was Bonjour. Now, Bonjour had brown hair and I'm pretty sure green eyes, and that's really the only thing that I remember about her. But I do remember, that's as far as like physical appearance goes, but I remember talking to her so much that my parents went and bought me a rag doll. And this was a pretty big rag doll. My mom still has it, and I saw it the other day and I was like, why don't you just throw it away? And she's like, no, it was yours. But anyways, so because I was talking to this entity so much, my parents didn't really want me seen just talking to air all the time, so they bought me a doll. Now, Bonjour went everywhere with me. She sat at the table, even before the doll. She sat at the table. She had a plate at the table, and I remember going to my friend's house and saying bonjour to her father. So then her father proceeded to talk to me back in French, and I was like, what are you doing? Because I had never heard French before. And that's when he continued to go on saying how bonjour is actually hello in French, which I didn't know up until that point. I had never heard the word before. The only time I connected it to anything was my imaginary friend. So I do think, looking back on that, that's pretty crazy because it was a word that I'd never heard of. It's not a very common word in America. And even though I am French and French Canadian, still not something that I had heard before. We go back a little bit farther. So that was before I was in school. And if we go back a little farther, my mom had told me that even since I was an infant, I had talked to things that just, they weren't there. And the TV would be off and I'd be having these full-on conversations with something and trying to hand stuff to these things that just nobody else could see. So they started buying me dolls and Barbies because they didn't want their daughter to be seen just talking to. Bonjour stuck around for a while, and like years. I was 6 years old, my grandmother had passed away. Now, I really freaked my mom and my sister out because I would talk to my grandmother. So after her passing, I would sit on my bed and I'd have full-on conversations with her. I would even get to the point where I would yell at my sister and my mom that they were sitting on my grandmother if they would go to sit on the bed next to me. And it really freaked them out. And eventually I had stopped seeing her as much. I saw a old lady in my parents' house, and I had also seen a child. And I had also seen, it was to the point where I would think that my mom was still home after she had gone to work, because I had seen a woman going into their bedroom, and I'd be so confused, and I'd follow her in, and I'd be like, Mom, what are you? And then I would turn on the light, and no one would be there. So there were quite a different amount of spirits there that it seems that I was the only one to have seen. And it's pretty interesting because there's actually a grave not that far down the road, and it was just a single grave by itself. Now, another thing that happened in that home when I was in about middle school was my light would just go on. I would get yelled at by my mom all of the time because it was wasting electricity that I need to turn off my bedroom light. Now, I would know that I did this, and it would happen almost immediately after coming out of my bedroom. My light would flick on. So some of you might be thinking, oh, well, that might be an electrical disturbance. Maybe the wire's faulty, something along those lines. Now, I'm going to tell you why. It's one day that I was really upset. So I went into my bedroom and I closed the door. Now, the lights in my bedroom were originally off. And I sat there, very upset, and the light flicked on. So at this point, I'm like confused because, oh my gosh, the light just turned on. I didn't hit the switch. So then I decided to kind of see what would happen if I had asked it to turn the light off. Now I was like, can you just turn the light off? So then the light went off. So now my curiosity was piqued, and it kind of helped me get over whatever I was upset about. But I kept asking the entity to turn on and off the light, and it would follow my commands every single time. So that is why I say that there's no way it could just be a faulty wire or something wrong with the lamp or something with electricity, because if that were the case, it would not follow my command every single time. Now, this went on for a while, and then eventually it stopped messing with my lights. There was also an experience when I was in high school. Now, the way that my parents' house is set up, the bathroom's down a hallway, and when you exit the bathroom, you can look straight into the kitchen. Now, the part of the wall next to the sink kind of sticks out a little bit, so you can't see the window all of the way. And I walked out of the bathroom one night, and I saw a man hunched like where he was leaning against the window. So I saw his tool belt, his blue jeans, and his work boots. Now, as I see this man, my parents have a kitchen, I don't remember if it's there. So my parents had a kitchen table, and over the kitchen table there was the light. So that light started flickering, and this was right around where the man was. So it just kept flickering, and at first it was a very slow flicker. As I kept taking steps forward, the light would flicker more. Now, nobody in the house realized that this light was doing it except me, and I kept walking towards the light because my curiosity was piqued. Walking towards this light, and by the time I got to where I could have seen the entity's face and their entire body, the light flickered so much that it went out. And then it went back on, and it was gone. Now, I ran into my parents' room, and I was like, this is what I just saw. This is what just happened. And of course they didn't believe me, as that's something I got quite frequently. It was just such a crazy experience to me, and I personally believe that it was my grandfather. He often came over and wore a tool belt and helped my dad work on things around the house. Well, more so in the backyard, and this was after he had passed. I'm going to fast forward a little bit to my time working at a retail store as an assistant manager in the mall. So my fiance and I were driving work because we only had one vehicle at the time. So he would drop me off at like 6 a.m. and then I'd just stay there till whenever I had to work, and I'd stay until he got out of work to pick me up. Driving, and I was used to getting up at the time, so yeah, I'm tired because, you know, waking up and stuff, but I was awake. And I'm more of a morning person than a night person, so I do fairly well in the morning. And anyways, so we were driving, and we drove through this figure that resembled a Grim Reaper. So it had a scythe, and it had a cloak, like with a black hood, and I've never seen anything like it, you guys. And I've never seen anything like it again after this day, which I'm very thankful for because it was just creepy. So anyways, I looked at Jeff and I was like, did you just see that? You just ran through it. And he's like, no, like, see what? Like, what are you talking about? So I told him, and he's like, I didn't see anything. And then I got to work, and a couple hours later, I was working on the computer. The doors were still shut. And mind you that there's no windows in the store, or there's no mirrors in the store minus in the dressing room, so nothing could have reflected or anything like that. I was working the computer, and out of my side view, I see the same figure, and it's slowly starting to walk towards me. Now, its hood was pulled over so much that I never saw its face, and it kept just walking towards me, and it gave such a negative feeling. It made me so uncomfortable. Now, it got to the point where it was literally like directly next to me, and when it kind of like reached out to grab my arm. So when it did that, I spun around to look at it, and then it disappeared. And like I said, I had never seen it again, and I don't want to see that again because it's very creepy. And I haven't really done much research on Reapers, so if you guys think that that's what that could have been, or if you guys have any idea what that one could have been, I would love to know your guys' opinion of that, because that one was pretty creepy. It happened, I want to say, roughly 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, probably 2.5 years ago. Now, I had also seen things in that store so much. I'd see beings that nobody else could see. I believe that I saw my grandmother. I never saw her face, so I can't say for sure that it was her, but she had a very distinct hairstyle, and the demeanor that I got was very loving. So I'm assuming it was her, but I definitely did see an elderly woman in the store, and this was before we opened, so there was no elderly woman in the store. Now, these were just a few quick experiences that I had that I wanted to share with you guys, and I want to know what you guys think. And you know, this is my truth, so if you guys think that this is a little bit too crazy for you, that is perfectly fine. I do want to know your guys' opinion on things. Did you guys have an imaginary friend growing up? And do you still see things? Have you had these crazy experiences? And I want to know what you think of mine. Now, if you liked this video, please give it a big thumbs up. It would mean so much to me. And make sure to hit that subscribe button, because I have so much coming your guys' way, and I'm so excited to share it with you. And with that being said, I hope that you guys have an amazing rest of your day or night whenever you are viewing this, and I will see you guys next time.